I said the bracelets are really cool. Do they have scarabs on them?
No, they don't. They have they're just little metal rings.
That's still cool. The metal
Yeah,
rings like a binding thing.
yeah. I could probably make scarabs to put on there, but yeah. No, they're just like cheap metal, but the idea was they're supposed to be silver. So,
That's still pretty cool, dude. I am suitably jealous. I
thank you.
I love how the characters got those bracers on their arms, and that's what he uses to like control and release the stuff inside of him.
Yeah,
Alrighty,
it
so
it helps him keep things at bay.
indeed it does.
That's
So
the
we're here
idea.
tonight talking about Damage Incorporated. Kender here, my friend in the bright orange fantastic shirt, is also known as Jonathan Dolbee. He co-hosts along with me and my sister for the Chaotic Good podcast, along with our Jedi, our audio Jedi, Jim Fetzer, as well as he is a very long-term member of Damage Inc. He's been around since we were kids and was there when all that stuff got created. Although, interesting
Almost
story.
almost 25 years ago.
Indeed. He has at least one character sheet in his house right now that's 25 years old, or damn near,
Yes.
at least. And Kender had a unique problem when he was running with Damage Inc., which is that it took him a very long time to figure out what character was how he expressed himself in Damage Inc. So there was many a characters he tried on experience after experience.
Well, I am a Kender after all. I have to taste test everything
It's just a
and
part of being Kender.
go through all of the motions, make sure all of the avenues have been explored.
Well, that's what Kenders do. And I think that was something that always made me laugh about you, even though it drove other people crazy. Like, oh my God, Kender, figure out what that. It never bothered me. It always made me laugh. Your first character, known only as the android, always made me laugh.
Yeah.
Because that character changed every single time you played him rather dramatically.
Yeah. I decided to make it that he had a programming flaw with his personality chip so that he would pick up the dominant personality of whatever the most recent television personality or radio host or anything like that had been playing in the lab when he was being uploaded to his new body. So it was a lot of fun.
It's like a lazy technician. Oh, I'm not going to fix this. I'm just going to turn on the television.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know where exactly the factory was, but it was not. It wasn't a very high quality place.
It wasn't.
Although
but you know what I always
had mass production down. They had mass production down.
That's true. You know what I always found fascinating about that character, though, is it was one of the very few characters I've ever seen in a role-playing game that respawned after death.
Oh yeah. Well, because and I remember having that argument with some of the other players. They're like, "Why are you so crazy, Kender? You're gonna just get killed if you do that." And I'm like, "Yeah, no problem. I'll just get reloaded into a new body. Isn't that how it works for everybody, right? They have it. Everything up here is on a mainframe somewhere. I'll be fine."
Yep, and it made that character rather reckless in some regards. Very funny. So let's see here. What are the stories? Well, first of all, Kender is actually cosplaying as the character, not as the Kender, as the character that he ended up in his long-term wanting for, which is Salamander, and also known as Sal, which is actually going to be in an upcoming issue that Jeff Aragon and I are actually working on right now. However, he has dressed up like the character more than once, and on the last Kickstarter, Kender actually backed it so that he got a patch. Show us the patch.
Can you see it?
I love that thing. It's so awesome that it's on a Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah, it was kind of a pain in the butt to get it on there, but it's there.
Dude, for mine, I just paid somebody to do it. I was like, there's no way I have the skills to do this.
Oh, I've got this cheap $80 sewing machine that we bought on sale from a vacuum cleaning store. So yeah, that thing does a lot of work around the house. It's pretty great.
That's awesome. If I had the skill to not kill myself with a sewing machine, I probably would have tried it.
You know what? One of the people that taught me how to use those things was your mom.
Oh, that's true, actually. She was a very good sewing seamstress. It was one of her talents that didn't go and offset by her craziness. Like, she could grow
What was wrong
garden
with that?
and she could sew. Everything else had one element or another of crazy built into it.
Yeah, that's for sure. But I appreciate being able to do stuff like that. It's nice to have a well-rounded set of skills.
Yep. I understand that part. I've had to like sew things for my kids, and they're like, "Where'd you learn this?" It's like, your grandma. Tell us about it. Nope. Gotta learn how to sew. I'll tell you how to sew, but I'm not gonna talk about your grandma. So now, getting back to Damage Inc. there, bud. It's been a while since you played in a session because you live up in Seattle now, and you're GMing up there on your own groups. But what's one of the gaming sessions that you remember about Damage? When did you laugh the hardest while you were playing?
So it was probably we've talked about this a bunch of times, and my wife loves hearing this story about the android showing up, and he had already died once or twice. And so here he is respawning again, and Damage crew is all set up to go inside this warehouse. It's at the end of a pier, San Francisco, nighttime. They're doing their standard, we need to get inside, but we don't want to just blow the doors down, so we're going to wear coveralls and say we have a delivery. And so they're getting ready to knock on the door.
An idea so bad that it was done on Super Troopers.
Oh yeah. Target was in the water in his full Kevlar silly outfit, ready to shoot people from under the pier, I think was his idea.
Yes.
And Gage was somewhere nearby, and I don't remember who else was there, but they're doing the standard, hello, we have a package for Mr. Smith. If we could just have him sign, please.
Might be Jones, not sure.
Yeah. And so and they're all on like their little head walkie-talkie comm things. And they knock on the door opens, they're like, hi, we have a package for Smith. Bad guys are like, yeah, fuck off. And then over the comms they hear, I am the shadow that lurks in the darkness. I am the justice that will not be escaped from. I am the gum stuck to the sole of your shoe, and it's time to get dangerous.
I remember Wayne started shouting something about who let him watch Darkwing Duck, god damn it, and started getting really upset.
Oh yeah. And then I crashed through the skylight into the warehouse because why not? You know, have to be dramatic, right? And I was all set to start doing cool stuff, and James is like, okay, Kinder, so how much does your android weigh? And I'm like, I don't know. Does it matter? Like 800 pounds-ish, maybe? 5, 6? I don't know. There's shoddy workmanship. Okay, well, so you jump through the skylight and crash to the floor, and you're in San Francisco Bay now. Good job.
There was dice involved. It's not like I just decided you fell right through the floor. Come on now. You failed.
But yeah, and so everybody immediately was upset, and Muppet-like chaos ensued. And
dude,
Target started shooting stuff from under the floor, not knowing what or who he was shooting at. I think Kuda started just throwing grenades into the warehouse as he tried to run away. Bad guys all had submachine guns, because why not? And it was a mess.
Wayne leveled the whole place, just emptying round after round after round.
That's why we're called Damage.
Yep. For the longest time, it was always supposed to be about the damage that all of us did. But the more and more that I thought about the metaphor of the name, it turned into more about how much damage we could absorb ourselves. I remember playing with you guys all the time, but specifically to keep my own self out of massive amounts of trouble that my family tended to get in back then. And it was a huge... No. Trouble when their dad... But it was a lot of fun playing all those years with Damage Incorporated. Although you mentioned the term Muppet-like chaos, it's one of my favorite terms. And you know what? I
Oh
have
yeah.
to write a story and call it Muppet-like chaos, where it is just absolute insanity. I love writing stories where basically nothing goes right and everything falls apart as the guys are trying to, make chicken shit.
So pretty much every adventure I ever went on.
Well, you can't. All those guys. That was basically where everybody had their most fun. Is when all the chaos was happening, and you were a big
Oh
part of
yeah.
it. I appreciate it. As a matter of fact, I think you are the only one who has not signed the original copy of Damage Inc. I actually have a copy of it's my proof copy that I got from the very first time I ever ordered any comics. So it was like the one that's
Uh-huh.
approved this book. So it is the only one that was ever printed in a particular series. And everybody has signed it, and you are the only member that hasn't signed. You and Stevie, actually, you and Stevie.
Oh man. Okay. Well, at some point I'll be back down in California. When I am, I'll whip out my little purple pen and go, "Padama."
Either that, or I will bring it to you. But one
Oh
of
yeah, that would be nice too. You can come
yes,
visit beautiful Lake Forest Park, where it was 30 degrees cooler than it is there in California today.
yeah. I drove my Volkswagen. It was like 104 degrees. Drove my Volkswagen home
Oh man.
in like an hour and a half.
Yeah, it was like 68 degrees, and my wife and I are both walking around the house like, God, it's so hot today. This sucks.
When you,
It's
told her, you don't
awful.
even have an air conditioner in your house, dude.
It's it's overcast. It's 60. It's pushing 70. This is the worst.
I need to take off my hoodie. I'm so warm. I see how it
Yeah.
is.
Oh
Um,
no, I walk around in shorts all the time. It doesn't matter where I am.
that's true. You did that here too. Um,
Yeah.
so I have a question for you. Um,
Okay.
did you played at my table for a very long time? How did
Yeah,
how
it
did
is.
how did that affect how you're? Because now you're a GM yourself instead of just a
Uh-huh.
player, and you always tried to GM for like little spurts, and start off with a great story, and then have
And
difficulty.
then Matt and Wayne would happen.
Yeah, Matt and Wayne would happen.
Yeah.
Anybody who listens to Matt
And
and Wayne are target engage in the comic book
right.
are professional assholes when it comes to how.
Yeah. And then I mean, you're super difficult to GM for also because you do it so much and you can see through the setup for stories so quickly, and
That's true.
it's really hard to there's no surprising you ever. But the thing I learned from all the time with you is to keep all of my NPCs alive, to keep the world alive that the players have interacted with. I show them enough to keep them interested and have a couple of different directions that they can go. And then as they make their way along wherever they're going, they leave this trail of influence behind them. And I just kind of keep track of, who they've accidentally screwed over, who they've helped out, who might want to kill them or help save them, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's always fun
And
bringing back some person that they didn't even remember doing anything.
oh yeah, yeah,
They took
definitely.
everything from me later on, and
So I have a really good story about that if we have time.
heck yeah, go for it.
Um, so the first game I DM'd for the new D&D Fifth Edition, I took a group of people through Quasqueton on the Quest for the Unknown,
Our favorite
and
adventure adventure.
yeah, I just kind of made up the converting it to Fifth Edition as I went along. It wasn't that hard. So we've got this group. There's a warlock who's an old one warlock, so he can use telepathy. He can speak in other people's heads, but he can't hear the reply. He can just put the words in their head. And
That's not very good
there's
at all.
there's a couple other people in the group, but he's the one that wound up getting focused on. And it's because as they went through the dungeon, they encountered some orcs. There were about, 8, 12 orcs they found in a barracks. They were all hanging out, living there. The owners hadn't been around for years. They're living off of free beer and food and all of that stuff. And the group, they're like, well, none of us speak orc. We don't want to attack them. And the warlock goes, oh, I know. I'll just start haggling with these guys and hire them. And they'll be like our guides here in the dungeon. We'll be like, hey, we're just, looking around. Can you show us where all the cool stuff is? Maybe help us avoid some traps. And they're like, oh, I'm looking in the equipment section here, and it says a hireling is like 1 silver per week or something. We'll give them 5 silver pieces each if they'll lead us around the dungeon. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you guys are gonna have a fun time. You're gonna have a fun time. And my wife is like, you guys are fucking morons. This is not how this works. And they're like, no, it's fine. It's cool. Look, we're paying them like 5 times the amount anyone would be paid for stuff like this, right? It's going to be great. But the warlock was the one doing the talking, and he kept sending his voice into the same orc's head over and over to let them know what they wanted. And so the group of orcs leads them over to their captain, who rightfully starts attacking them, and all of the orcs attack them. And the one that had been getting, the telepathy took off downstairs and was like, I'm out of here. This is way too crazy for me. I don't want anything to do with it. He goes downstairs where there's a bunch of troglodytes worshiping this big, greedy, gluttonous bat god thing. And so I'm like, interesting. I think what we'll do is have this bat god thing be the symbol of another old one who's not so keen on having this first old one's warlock poking around his dungeon next to these troglodytes. So guess what? That orc that got brain screwed is now a blade-packed warlock for this other old one. Nice. And when they finally got downstairs and ran into him, there he was with his troglodyte minions and his gibbering mouther that his old one had sent him from the depths of the void.
Yeah.
And he just wrecked their party, just wiping the floor with them. It was awful. And the only way they survived was my wife was like, this is bullshit. And she used all of her cooldowns to like sprint across the room and kick the guy and stun him so that all of his concentration spells would go down. And so he uses a Misty Step to go right behind the warlock that had changed him into a warlock, summons this giant flaming hellblade and jams it through his torso from behind.
Very dramatic.
And dies.
I love how players always think whenever they're going through their stories that there's no repercussions to their actions. Oh, it'll work out. I'm just going to go ahead and do this and that. And in Damage, you see that a lot. The one of the characters everybody likes to talk about, to tell me about is Gage. Gage is the bruiser, the big tank, and whatever. And he's an asshole on purpose because he's always trying to get the attention of the bad guys because he figures if he's taking the hits, nobody else is going to take the hits. So he's an aggro tank that aggroes via douchebaggery, I guess is the best way to explain it. And he never thinks there's going to be repercussions. But one of the things I included in the story is it's really difficult to write a character like that without him turning into some crazy alt-right, like not a character I even want to be around. So one of the things that keeps happening is as ever I'm writing the stories, I always end up finding ways for some girl character to like knock him down a couple of pegs. And in this particular issue, he's constantly hitting on the 3 girls that they're trying to get a bounty from.
Because that's how Gage is.
Exactly.
Gage was always like that anyway.
In real life.
He was one of those players who every time he described a scene, his first question was, are they hot?
Yeah. Scenes like that, though, they what I found when I was writing a comic that's a huge difference between writing role-playing games like I did all the years, is that as I'm creating the stuff that's going on, just like how in the role-playing game when I would create the worlds for you guys and have it interact with you, I played with you guys so long that your characters, I kind of know what the things you would do, and they start like reacting for me. Like I feel like I'm just like watching it play out and taking notes. That's almost kind of what it feels like.
that makes sense. It's writers have the same thing happen to them where they write stories and their characters kind of come alive. And uh, one of the styles of writing that George R. R. Martin uses is where he just sort of he comes up with characters, he puts them in a situation, and then he just starts writing and sees what they do from there. And that's why his books are so big and thick and detailed and tedious at times, but it's a valid way of doing things, and it's a great way for you to go about writing the comic.
It is. I totally enjoy it, and plus, there's just something so satisfying about hurting Gage and throwing him through a wall, or having see here in the latest issue, he gets kicked in the balls. He gets told by a witch, a vampire, and a werewolf that they're not going to date him. Then he gets stabbed with a barbecue fork.
I liked that one.
Yeah,
that was great.
That was funny. There was a 3-page discussion between him and Brain about his dating habits. And then being funny. The other thing that was really surprising for me about writing Damage is when I first started doing it, I thought it was going to all be about the action, about everybody was going to love the superpowers and the confrontations, and it ended up being everybody likes hearing about the comedy. They like seeing the characters mess with each other, like hearing people laugh. They like seeing them go back and forth and make fun of each other. And all the feedback I usually get from everybody is, "Oh, this guy reminds me of my brother. Oh, this guy over here, he's just like me." Or, "Oh my God, I love watching him make an ass of himself." And it ended up being like I never thought I was going to be a comedy writer like in my entire life, and I guess it just happened.
Well, that's what comics are all about, right? I mean, all the superpowers and cool stuff they do, that's just like the flashy, catch your eye, get you interested, but really it has to have a story and the people have to be alive. And when you're dealing with situations like they deal with, one of the best ways to do it is through having a laugh at every turn you can.
That's very true. And you've provided many a laugh over the years, my friend. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you giving me the time tonight, too, bud. I needed this to go ahead and check out the Kickstarter. Kickstarter, of course, is on the website, www.kickstarter.angrybrainartworks.com. As of tomorrow, we have 7 days. That's 7 days left. And we've got, I think we're at 52%. Still got plenty of time to get over the last $900 or so, and it'll be the second Kickstarter that gets funded. So there's plenty of cool rewards over there. There's some original art, there's books, there's all kinds of stuff. There's patches, and one of the coolest things that I got to do this time, Kinder, shoulder patches, little 2-inch patches that are like the Damage logos.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Oh, I'm so excited. Yep.
Cool stuff for your shoulders.
Yep. Mike ordered one so he can put it on his dojo bag.
Also.
Camille and James want them put on their hoodies. And I can't wait. I'm going to put one on my leather jacket and putting it on his airsoft gear and stuff like that.
Sounds like that's going to be fun.
Oh, heck yeah. All right, bud. So thank you so much for tonight. And everybody, please go check out the Kickstarter. Find something you like and back it. Adios.
Ciao la vista.
Ciao la vista. All right, bud. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hopefully.